The last part of mycology that we need to begin with are going to be the opportunistic infections. Now, please remember, under the opportunistic infections, there is a certain list that we are going to have that you must take care of, which is very important, especially when you're dealing with the virus that is HIV, because this is the list of things that you'll get with HIV as opportunistic. So, Cryptococcus candida, Aspergillus, Mucor, and Pneumocystis, out of which I hope you remember, Mucor was just a member of the family. The actual family was Zygomycetes, right? Okay, so let's begin one by one. Let's begin with the first one, and that is going to be Cryptococcus. Please remember, Cryptococcus is having many things under it. There is something called Cryptococcus neoformans. There's something called Cryptococcus gattii. For all practical purposes, the pathogenic one that you call is Cryptococcus neoformans. Now, what are the things that you already know about Cryptococcus from your prior knowledge? Do we know that it is a true yeast? Because I told you that it is the one that is going to show you budding, right? So yes, it is a true yeast. And we also know one more thing, that I was doing that negative staining for it. Why? Because it had a capsule. So it has a polysaccharide capsule. Now, whenever something has a capsule, the capsule is going to be antigenic. And the capsule that is antigenic will help in serotyping. So what are the different serotypes on the basis of capsule that I know? So earlier they used to just write it in the books as ABCD and a hybrid known as AD. So this is what was written in the books, ABCD and a hybrid known as AD. But now I'm going to change that a little. I am going to write A, D and AD together. A, D and that hybrid AD I'm going to write together. Whereas B and C I'm going to write in a separate version. Why is that so? Because A, D and AD are coming under Cryptococcus neoformans, and B and C are coming over the next one, and that is Cryptococcus gattii. Because if you check your QBank and you check your PYQs, also your GTs, you will come across this question, and that question is that how many serotypes does Cryptococcus neoformans have? So don't mark 5. Cryptococcus neoformans has A, B, A, D and AD, the hybrid A, D, AD, whereas Cryptococcus gattii is going to have the B and C serotypes. That's a question you'll find and come across. I hope you don't get it wrong. Okay, having said that, now that we're talking about both of them, why don't we do their differences also, difference between Cryptococcus neoformans and gattii. So remember, the Cryptococcus neoformans is found all over the world. Cryptococcus gattii, see the way you're going to write gattii, a lot of things will come across it. So when we write gattii, we have double T, double I, and I'll tell you how to learn that. Firstly, in terms of distribution, there is going to be tropical and subtropical. So tropical words are going to come. It's going to come across tropical and subtropical regions. Next, please remember, when you're talking about the isolation, where are you going to find it? Very important. So one of them is found in the soil around the trees. One of them is found in the soil with pigeon droppings. So ultimately, both of them are ultimately coming from the soil, but one of them is found in the soil around the eucalyptus tree. The soil around the eucalyptus tree. And how do I learn it? Because gattii is sounding like a tree. Whereas on the other hand, that is Cryptococcus neoformans, it is going to be on the soil with pigeon droppings. So how is it going to come to us? If the soil has pigeon droppings, how is it going to come into our system? By inhalation. So one of the routes by which it is going to come, which I'll tell you in exactly a minute, is going to be inhalation. So the isolation is simple. Both of them are in the soil, but which is the soil with the tree? So gattii is going to remind you of tree. Okay, next, immunity wise, please remember Cryptococcus neoformans is usually seen in immunocompromised patients. That is why you are always going to see this in HIV positive or immunocompromised patients. Whereas Cryptococcus gattii, if you look at I and I, this means both the immunity people can show it. This can be seen in immunocompromised patients also, and this can be seen in immunocompetent patients also. So always remember this. It can be seen in immunocompromised and competent. That is why a double I is going to help me here. Talking about the treatment, which of them is easier to treat? So obviously I say that because this gattii is happening in immunocompetent and in compromised, this is the one that is actually going to have a more prolonged treatment, because this seems to be doing more harm, because it can happen even in people with normal immunity. So that is the one that is going to require a prolonged treatment. So my simple way of learning gattii was the mnemonic gattii. So gattii is telling me T and T tropical and subtropical, I and I immunocompetent and immunocompromised. T is telling me the trees, eucalyptus tree, and Cryptococcus neoformans is going to be around the soil with the pigeon droppings. Having said that, when I say that there is Cryptococcus, when I by default mean, I am talking about Cryptococcus neoformans, means I'm going to talk about the soil with what? The tree or the pigeon droppings? Means I'm talking about the soil with the pigeon droppings, which also means that how is this going to reach us? It is going to reach us by a mechanism of inhalation. It is going to reach us by a mechanism of inhalation, which means it's going to come into the lungs. But tell me one thing. When you read about the symptomatology of Cryptococcus neoformans, is it pneumonia as the symptom that you read very commonly, or is it cryptococcal meningitis? Right, meningitis, na? So please remember, it's the lungs where it enters, but from the lungs, it rather than settling over there, it goes into the blood and goes to different organs, particularly the brain, causing meningitis. So lung is just an en route. It's just a bypass kind of a thing, that okay, just a method of getting inside the body. Inhale, get inside the body, as soon as you reach the lungs, go somewhere else, and that is the meningitis. That is why most of your patients you're going to get as a case of cryptococcal meningitis. Now, having said that, please remember cryptococcal meningitis is going to be diagnosed in 3-4 classical tests, some of which you already know if you've done the first part of this chapter. So please remember, if you have a patient of meningitis, the sample that you will be taking will be a CSF sample for obvious reasons. If you've taken a CSF sample, what is the testing that you prefer? There is a negative stain that we are going to do. When we say negative stain, what we get is India ink or nigrosin. What we get is India ink or another stain known as nigrosin. So you can see, right, that the background has got the color. The background has got the color and the capsule is unstained. The capsule has been highlighted. Capsule will not pick up the color. So capsule will be shining. So if the background has a color, the capsule will come out as highlighted. Okay. Now on the other hand, this is if you were getting a CSF sample. What if you end up getting a biopsy sample? You know this question already. If you get a biopsy sample, what is the stain? Why is it looking so rose, pink, or this kind of a color? Because you have stained it with something known as mucicarmin. You have stained it with something known as mucicarmin. Okay, having said that, the story is not over. These were only your stains. But if you have to grow it in a culture media, what is that culture media known as? First will always be SDA. SDA shows you a mucoid colony, and this concept I have told you earlier also. Whenever we are dealing with capsulated organisms, like do you remember there was an organism called Klebsiella? Klebsiella was capsulated and showing you a mucoid colony. Cryptococcus is also capsulated. It is also going to show you a mucoid colony. So that is a common trick that I'm telling you for all the capsules. It's going to show you mucoid colonies. But if you grow it on something else, there is something known as Niger seed or bird seed or Kaffik seed agar. How do I learn so many names? Firstly, when I'm talking about Cryptococcus neoformans, pigeon and bird is definitely one thing that I have to keep in mind, because pigeon droppings is what I'm inhaling. So something regarding birds has to be there. And if I look at the culture, it's all brown. So this is Niger. Niger word always tells you brown, right? So Niger seed. And Kaffik. Kaffik is reminding me of coffee, caffeine. Coffee, caffeine, Kaffik. That is also brown in color. So coffee is brown in color. Niger is brown in color. And I'm dealing with pigeons. So all your names are sorted. Niger seed agar, bird seed agar, Kaffik seed agar. But now your question will be, why brown? What is the reason for it to form brown? Brown color is due to melanin. And why is that being produced? Because of the enzyme called lacase or phenol oxidase. Very, very important previous year question. The enzyme responsible for this is phenol oxidase or lacase. Okay, finally, if someone asks you what is the confirmatory test, it is LAT, and you must have seen this in previous years. LAT stands for latex agglutination testing. LAT stands for latex agglutination test. So repeating all these tests once again, because Cryptococcus is really important. Firstly, if you get a CSF sample, you are going to go ahead with a negative stain. If you get a biopsy sample, you're going to go ahead with a mucicarmin stain. And when you have to do a culture media, SDA, because it's capsulated, it will show you a mucoid colony. If you have to see that brown color, the Kaffik, bird seed, Niger seed agar, the reason for the brown color is the enzyme that it has called phenol oxidase or lacase. The confirmatory test is going going to be latex agglutination testing. Last point, how do you treat a case? What is the treatment protocol? So especially for meningitis, because that is what I'm most interested in, there is LAM, that is liposomal amphotericin B is given along with flucytosine. So remember, LAM and flucytosine are the primary stay of treatment. Having said that, opportunistic infection, Cryptococcus is done. What do I move on to?